This video is an introduction to the second phase of the LIFE methodology, Innovate. The LIFE methodology contains 4 phases: listen, innovate, field test, evaluate. In this video, we discuss the Innovate phase, which is the work of Agile co-creation, and the stability check, the third checkpoint of the methodology. The Innovate phase, so the Agile co-creation, is a long phase in your project. It is the phase where the robot is developed. This is done in a recurring cycle of 4 steps: co-design, test, develop, quality check. The first step is co-design, and that starts with making a co-creation group. Such a group consists of 8 to 15 participants, 4 to 8 end users, older adults, formal caregivers, informal caregivers. The combination of those will depend on your use case. Of course, you also have the robotics engineers, technological expertise, and the non-technical expertise, the researchers with experience in qualitative methods and in design. If you recruit participants with a high degree of autonomy, it will be easier to organize these co-creation groups. For example, because people are available and they can come themselves to the facility, the venue where you organize this session. During co-design sessions, a prototype of the robot is available, and you work with the robot during that session. End users are asked to deliver constructive criticism on the robot and its services. They are engaged through playful, fun elements. And also important, they're asked to prioritize, because they are a group, they have different ideas, bring in different points of improvement, and for the team that develops, it's important to know what in the perception of the end users is the most important improvement. Duration of these sessions should not be more than 2.5 hours, including breaks, because older adults, well, they get tired, and also there's a lot of things to discuss, and you will also notice and experience yourself that these sessions are really, very intense. Some recommendations. At the first session, where you show your robot for the first time to the people in the co-creation group, everybody is really excited and they want to know all about it, and they might be very positive and might not have any ideas for improvement. This is not a problem, because you will have these sessions several times, but just be aware that the first session can sort of have a different character. We said that prioritization is important, and for that you can use sticky notes, and actually sticky notes are your friend in any co-design session. Analyzing everything that has been said is very important and also very interesting, but at the same time the technical team members have to continue the work, because, well, you have limited time, and for that already let them work on the top 1 priority. So right after a co-design session, make sure what they are focusing on, while the other members of the team, usually the non-technical researchers, have time to make a thorough analysis and a thorough description of what happened in the co-creation group. Another recommendation is to organize these co-design sessions at regular intervals. You will need during this your project several of these sessions, at least 3. There are different tools that you can use, different approaches. We used guardian angels, which is a role that the non-older adults take during these sessions to make sure that the older adults are free to speak up and that they are at ease. So this means that for each older adult, there is also one guardian angel that could be a researcher or a formal caregiver that makes sure they are comfortable, that makes sure they are heard, that maybe gives some extra explanation if things were not clear. As said before, role-playing is very interesting and very much fun also, because you really, as a potential end user, you really think, what would happen if I were in this situation? How would I use this robot? And during this role-playing, the engineers can really see what happens and if people interact with the robot the way that they thought they would. We also have experience with facilitation tools such as empathy cards and notebooks of astonishment. An empathy card is an assignment for the researchers to really make sure that they listen in an active mode. So that means that they think, what would the older adult say? What is important for this older adult? An astonishment notebook is very interesting and relevant to keep track of everything that you see, that you like, dislike, every thought that you have. It is basically a journal, and you can not only use it during a co-design session, but also in between. And this, as such, can be a powerful tool also to keep people motivated and involved during this whole phase of agile co-creation. The second step of the agile co-creation is testing. This is done with a smaller group than the co-design. Could be people from the co-design, preferably 2 to 4 people, combination again of older adults and caregivers that experiment with the robot in real conditions, and they do that really to help out the technical team. So the engineers have thought of different ways that the robot can operate, or they have made some improvements on an algorithm and they just want it to be tested. So this test is usually done in real conditions, so at the home of the older adult, in the hospital or the wards, and if not, well, invite those people to your lab. Again, this should be people with a high degree of autonomy. Both the co-design and the test are very rich in data, and it is very important that the co-creation team as a whole analyzes everything that has been collected, because they have to come up with a good list of improvement tracks and also with good prioritization of the work that has to be done. Our recommendation is that there's always something new when you test, because you want to keep the people motivated, and if they have to test the same algorithm, for example, at different times, then they do not feel that there's progress being made. So make sure there's always something new to a test. Then the third step, which is actually the work of the robot engineers, but they only work with sort of consent and agreement of the full project partners consortium. So they work on those features of the robot that have been agreed upon that are important. So there is agreement on the requirements of the robot platform, the service capabilities are defined, and also acceptance criteria. That means you define at the beginning when you will be satisfied technically with the things that you develop. This Innovate phase is called Agile Co-Creation, and Agile is a way of developing technology, software usually, and we have experienced that this way of working using the principles of Agile is also very beneficial for developing robotic solutions. if you want to know more about Agile development, then there are several tutorials and books and courses that you can follow. The fourth step, which is also an important step from the Agile methodology and Agile principles, is a quality check. And in our methodology, we use this quality check sort of as a closure of a cycle of co-design. So before going to a new co-design session, you do such a quality check and you perform an acceptance test. So you really want to see if the criteria that you defined when you would be happy with the technical performance of a functionality or of a feature or of some piece of hardware of the robot. That is what you test during this quality check. So the robot, the services, and you evaluate the achievements. If you're positive, then you know that you're ready to demonstrate this new feature in a second co-design session, and also use that second co-design session for gathering input for a new thing that you want to focus on in development. As said, the Innovate phase is a phase that runs through several cycles of Agile co-creation. And once you think you are ready for the field test, the third step, you have to do a stability check. In the field test, you test a robot in a natural setting. And for that, it is important that you look very critically at the end of the Innovate phase if the robot is technically ready for that. So what is the risk that the robot will crash? And what is the risk that the robot can actually only function if there is a technical expert on site? If the answer to that question is that the risk is high, then you're not ready for the field test yet. So to sum up, the Innovate phase is the phase of Agile co-creation, where you develop a robotic solution in close collaboration with end users. That is done by co-design sessions with a multidisciplinary co-creation team, small tests with 2 to 4 users in real-life situation, using Agile methodology to develop and refine the robot, perform a quality check meeting before a new co-design session as an acceptance test. The Innovate phase ends with a stability check. Is the robot technically ready for experiment in real-life setting? The full methodology is described in the Life Methodology Handbook, which you can find on the project's website. This handbook and these videos have been developed as part of the ACRA project, a research and innovation action funded by Horizon 2020 and NICT. Thanks for watching.